Hello and welcome to Exposing the Strange. It's been a crazy day here in Ohio. I'm hit with that snowstorm. I don't know about you guys, where you're located, but it's been a whiteout here all day. I have a great interview lined up for you. Tonight we're speaking with Colleen, and she actually has video footage of a dogman digging a hole in a cemetery right here in Akron, Ohio. She also has her own dogman encounter story and a story about another gentleman who saw a dogman on the side of the road eating a dead deer and holding it with hands, not paws, hands. And then she wraps up to tell a story of a dead dogman that was hit by a semi on I-77 right here in Akron as well, that was carted off in an unmarked ambulance surrounded by Ohio State troopers and Ohio DNR. So stay tuned, because this is a really great interview.
It was around 2017 that I got a video sent to me by my daughter. Now, my daughter, she has these two friends that are the ones that actually took the video at Greenlawn Cemetery in Norton and Akron, Ohio. At the time, I was a researcher with another cryptid group out of Portage County. They knew that I was a researcher, so they gave the video to my daughter and asked if I could look into it. So I was sent the video. So the video is mine. Many people have seen it. There's lots of folks that have poo-pooed it, called it a hoax, whatever you want to call it, and claimed it as theirs. Well, guess what? It's not. It was sent to me and I own it. I researched it. As soon as I got the video, I knew where it was because I grew up in the area. I grew up probably 10 miles from the cemetery. And I knew right away that it was Greenlawn. So the very next day, at the crack of dawn, I was there. We're looking and trying to learn and take pictures.
Sonicrafter F80 oscillating multi-tool features patented duotech oscillation technology, which combines speed and control all in one tool. It's the only oscillating tool.
That looks like she's digging with her hands.
Digging for what?
Digging with her hands.
What those things?
The Rockwell Sonicrafter F80 oscillating multi-tool.
See? She's in.
F80 at Lowe's. Rockwell tools.
What is that?
Is not an option. Watch the CMT Music Awards live Wednesday, June 7th at 8, 7 Central on CMT. Before I started stowing and going in my Chrysler Pacifica, things were pretty tight. Turn to hold the luggage. Now I shine like a diamond in the most awarded minivan of the year. Looking good. I also struggle with parallel park mode minivan. Moving. But thanks to the available parallel and perpendicular park assist system, my mistakes are all
She's getting down there, man.
She is getting down there. Super weird.
Okay. Which way?
That's just weird. Go this way. What?
I saw the hole that it dug. I saw the arc formation of the dirt that it threw. I saw the depth of the hole, 21 inches deep, width 18 inches. I looked for shovel marks, spade marks. There were none. When you dig a hole in the ground with a shovel, as you put leverage on it, it flattens the ground. It makes the ground smooth. There was nothing like that. It was all rough sod dirt. So anyway, the dirt, I did the research on it. I took pictures of it, and I saw what looked like two perfect knee impressions where this thing, and you'll see it in the video and the stills if you look, two knee impressions where whatever this was sitting on its knees. And you can see where it was throwing the dirt. You can watch it throw the dirt. You can see how it moves and pivoted at the hips. And you can see how its arms bend to go down into the dirt. So a little bit of deduction, I figured this thing had to have 40+ inch arms. If it sat on its knees with its erect back, to be able to dig that far down makes sense, that it's got 40 plus inch arms. And who knows how long its hands were. But what I do know is the ground is typical northeastern Ohio, substrate, glacial till. So the ground is kind of hard, but not super hard. But I do know that if a human was digging that hole, we would have lost our fingertips. We probably would have broken every single nail. We might have even broken our fingers and our wrists trying to dig through dirt. But this thing did it with ease. This was the spot where it dug. I know this because I took the pictures of the hole when it happened. But right here is exactly where it dug a hole. It was 21 inches deep. It was 18 inches wide. And there were no dig marks. There were no tool marks. Now I know this exactly because this gentleman that's buried here is a friend, or is the father of one of my friends. I didn't take it, but like I said, the two girls did. And they had no idea what they were looking at. They were parked on that road that's like right across from that tree. And they told me that they saw a dirty lady digging a hole. When I got the video, I knew right away where I was and where it was. Well, I live only about 12 miles from here, but I grew up in this area, so I knew where I was. I knew about the mausoleum. I knew where the cemetery was. So the first morning, early, probably just after sunrise, that's when I came and I took pictures of the hole. I measured the hole. I inspected the hole. There were 2 perfect knee prints right there. That tells me that she was on her knees while she was digging the hole. I came back later that day because I wanted some more pictures. The cemetery staff were instructed to fill it in. There was dirt everywhere. Dirt came all the way up in here, all the way around. People tried to say, well, that's digging a grave. Well, no, it's not, because people don't dig graves that way. When they dig an actual grave, they use a backhoe now. But there's no real caskets here. There's only cremated remains. Notice how come they're so close together.
Hello, Exposing the Strange viewers. I just wanted to interject here for a few seconds and say thank you for watching these videos. It means a lot to me. I strive to bring you the best content possible. If you have an encounter, please feel free to contact me on the website, whether you want to come on the show or have me tell your story for you. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing from you.
I kept going back. I went back later on in the day, and obviously the cemetery office, or the bosses, told the staff or the groundskeepers that they wanted it filled in because you can't have people going past one of the most prestigious museums cemeteries in Northeast Ohio, seeing a rough hole. What is the first thing the public's going to say? Oh my God, there's something here digging up my grandfather, digging up my Uncle Jeff. They can't have that. So they told them to fill it in and make it look natural. Well, it didn't really quite look natural. It was a cemetery. That side was all cremated remains. So what they did was they made it look like someone got buried in a coffin or casket in a vault. But there's none of that there. They didn't have a clue what did it. I talked with a groundskeeper privately, and he asked me if I knew what it was, and I told him I think I do, but I can't be certain. And he's like, I need to know, because they told us to fill it in, make it look real, and don't talk about it. Don't even mention it, don't ask about it. I do know that Greenlawn is a very heavily surveyed cemetery. There's no vandalism, graffiti, things like that. There's cameras all over. But I don't think it was able to pick up anything that was digging. But two girls in the car did. And I pretty much left it alone. I started talking with people. And I started talking with people in the neighborhood. I put my number out, my feelers out, and I started getting results. And I talked with so many people that live in the area near the cemetery, behind the cemetery, that I started putting two and two together, and I came up with a pattern. It's the only thing that makes sense. I'll tell you what happened prior to the cemetery. In 2017, it was seen, and I saw it, behind Barberton Speedway, now called Norton Raceway Park. I raced there for years. The track was closed for 2.5 years, and in 2017 it opened back up under new management. I was elated. I got my race car that was in storage out, got it ready, and we went there on the opening day. Myself and another driver pulled into our parking spots at the same time. Now, at the time, being closed, there were a lot of very high weeds in the back lot, and they only cleared enough to park a vehicle. So we pulled in, the truck noses were right up against the weeds. As we were getting ready to unload our cars, myself and another driver looked over, and we saw something in the weeds staring at us. And it didn't look right. It looked... I don't know how to say it, but it looked animalistic, if that makes sense. I would say the weeds themselves were 6 foot high. And this thing was looking at us, standing in the weeds, no more than, say, 15 feet from the nose of our pickup trucks. And we both saw it at the same time. And we didn't know what to think. But we watched, we got eye contact with it, and in a few seconds it turned around and ran back into the woods. And myself and the other driver were just shaking our heads because we didn't know what we were looking at, but we did know that we saw something. So we kind of let that go. It wasn't maybe 2 weeks after opening day, there was a fire not far from the speedway. There was a brush fire on I-76, probably caused by a passing truck. And it burnt a lot of area. And the fire actually came up to behind the speedway. And you could see it from I-76 and Barber Road. Well, I think what happened was that fire stirred them up and got them wanting out of the area, plus the noise of the race cars. Extremely loud, lots of people, lots of commotion. That probably moved them too. But right after the fire, 1 week after the fire, they began a widening project on 76. ODOT, Ohio Department of Transportation, started it. The first thing they did was start widening the bridge before they start widening their highway. So they closed off one lane of the bridge. They assembled all their equipment, their dozers, their backhoes, things of that nature, underneath the bridge area. They blocked it off with canvases, with plywood, everything else, so they could work underneath it. And I think what happened was it blocked off what was called Wolf Creek. They made their way on the other side of Wolf Creek, on the, it would be the north side of 76, 224. And they began making their way closer to Copley, following Barber Road, Summit Road, Clark Mill Road. And a lot of things happened between there and that cemetery. There were an awful lot of animals missing. There were signs going up all over Norton, Copley, Barberton, and other areas. Missing dogs, missing cats, missing sheep, missing farm animals, things of that nature. So this all happened like, I don't know, within a few weeks of each other. This started happening. So I'm thinking that they were looking for food. And they weren't finding much food. So it was probably 2 weeks or so after that is when the one was in the cemetery. Now I have a feeling that it was there for a reason. I think it was trying to bury an infant. I know that they have a sense of loss, a sense of remorse, a sense of mourning. So they know when something's not right, but they follow and they watch human behavior. And they're right next to this huge cemetery that's very easy for them to get into. It has a fence all around the perimeter, but it's a big, old, 2-foot-high wrought iron fence. And I feel that it watched humans bury their dead, and it had a feeling that it could do the same. Now, what it was burying and why, I think, was an infant, whether it be a stillborn or a miscarriage or just a death. They don't have prenatal care. They don't have postnatal care. They have a baby, which is great. But then does nature decides whether that baby's going to flourish or die? So I think one of them passed away. And I think Mama, that was digging the hole, was trying to bury it. I got no proof of this, but this is what I believe. And at the same time, other things started happening in the area. There was a private kennel not far from the cemetery, off of Route 261, that reported having several German shepherds torn to pieces. And the owner of the owner of the kennel described seeing something run and jump over a fence when he turned the light on. And that's when he saw 8 dead German shepherds. Now I have the pictures of the necropsy pictures. I don't share those. I'm a dog lover. I don't like seeing puncture wounds in dogs' necks. I don't like seeing x-rays of broken dog necks. I don't like seeing pictures of all the skin and the fur and that ripped apart. But that's what happened. And there's nobody that can, corroborate that story. They've moved. I would have too, probably. At that time, it wasn't long after, excuse me, I put out my cards, my phone number, and I had several people get a hold of me. And I interviewed several people in the area. Now, these folks didn't know one another from Adam, but they didn't live too far away. And they had stories to tell, intriguing stories that I researched quite a bit of. One gentleman told me that on Route 261, he was on his way to work, and he said he saw something chewing on a dead deer on the side of the road. Now, he was kind of frantic and a little bit panicky talking to me, and he said, I swear, he said it 4 or 5 times, that this thing did not have paws. He said this had hands, and this had fingers, and those hands were wrapped around the deer while it was chewing on the neck. He said he pulled over, rolled his window down, and it raised its head up, and he said he was never so scared in his life watching this thing look at him. He described it as a werewolf. Again, I have no proof of this. I'm going by what people tell me. I've had several other interviews along Barber Road, along Clark Mill Road, and around Summit Road. I have a friend that I raced with that lived off of 261. And he lived farther up towards State Street, kind of in a wooded area. And he had a 12-year-old daughter who said, I couldn't sleep. I saw a monkey man looking at me. And she said this over and over. So she would not sleep in her room. She had to sleep in another room that they can't see in. So there's encounter number, 4 or 5, all right? So I put pieces together. It's like I have a map of Summit County that I put push pins in. And I come up with a pattern. And this pattern makes perfect sense. All these people are seeing these things along the waterways. We have the Tuscarawas River, we have the Cuyahoga River, and we have Wolf Creek, and we have Pigeon Creek that all run parallel and close by there. So I do believe that they do follow the waterways. Plus we have connecting woods. People don't notice this, people don't see it when they're in their drive, their morning commutes and afternoon commutes. But we have connections. So you can basically get, let's put it this way, I could go from one part of Summit County to the other part and not be seen if I chose to. That's the kind of area we live in. It's not super populated, but at the same time, it's not rural. We have rural areas and we have metropolitan areas. But I do believe that's how they can move. And they probably move at night so nobody can see them. I don't think they're stupid. I grew up in southern Summit County near Clinton, Ohio. I lived across the street from a place called Nimisila Reservoir. We had a lot of woods around us, especially behind us and in front of us. When my family moved there from the lower part of Clinton in 1972, 71, I was just a kid. And I remember older neighbors warning us to watch out for the hairy men. And my parents thought, what is this? And I heard about it and I had to know, what is a hairy man? We learned later on by talking to other people as I was growing up that they have hairy men. And they come out of the woods near the reservoir and they go across South Main and they walk around and they just explore. Okay, great. I'd like to see one. Well, let's go fast forward when I was in junior high. I went to Manchester High School. And I was in my room and there was a fresh snow and the moon was shining very bright. And I could see everything in my bedroom through the windows because it was that bright. Well, before I went to sleep, I heard a grunt and some heavy breathing, and then I heard some footsteps outside my window. Now, my house was built a little bit on a slope, so when you got to my windows, it wasn't far from the ground to the gutters and the edge of the roof. As you went towards the rest of the house, again, it's tall, and you can't reach that stuff. So I had 2 windows in my bedroom. Well, like I said, I was able to see everything in my room through the moonlight. And all of a sudden, one of the windows went dark, went completely black, while the moonlight shined through the other window. And I'm like, wait a minute, what's up? And there was something out there. It was moving. You could hear it. You could sense it. And it was kind of breathing heavy and grunting. It would move left or right, and you'd see a little sliver of moonlight shine in through the window, and it would move to the right, and you'd see a little bit come in through on that side. Well, this went on for a few seconds. And then I remember hearing the aluminum gutters crinkle. And if you've ever heard that sound of a gutter crinkling and cracking, That's what it sounded like. So what it had to been doing was standing below my window with its hands on the gutter, on the edge of the house, crinkling the gutter. Well, this went on for a few seconds, and I remember hearing a grunt, and it turned. Then I could see moonlight, and I heard it run away because it ran up towards the woods behind our house. Well, the next morning I was still curious. And remember, I graduated in 82, so it had to have been 1978. I didn't have a camera back then, but waiting for the bus the next morning, I went around the side of the house to look. I saw where it was standing, crumpled down smashed snow. I looked up and I saw where it had a hold of the gutter. There were greasy fingerprints and handprints on the gutter itself. And when I say greasy, they were almost slimy, almost like somebody had their hands in lard, then ran them through the dirt, and then held onto the gutters. That was what it left. And again, no camera. I wished I had one then like I do now. But there was no cameras. And I chalked it off as who knows what it was. It's time to go find the bus and go to school. That was my last possible encounter. And what it was to this day, I don't know. I'm going to say a grass man. I don't know about a full-on Bigfoot, but I think it was a grass man. It was probably called a Kenmore grass man. And where we lived, again, along the canals and along the lakes, these things connect. So for one to go from one side to the other, it wouldn't be that difficult to do. We went for a long time before anything else happened. But I kept hearing things from people. So that kind of got me interested in this cryptid research. Plus, when I was younger, my family took me to the West Theater in Barberton, Ohio, and I saw The Legend of Boggy Creek for the very first time. And I'll say it again, that set the hook. I needed to know. But I never thought or never knew that there were anything in Ohio. I thought these things only lived in the Pacific Northwest. But no, they are in Ohio. Well, a few years ago, probably, I think still 2017, not long after all this stuff started happening, there was something happened on I-77 near Vernon Odom Boulevard. If you know the area, you'll know that there is a sound wall which runs from one side of Copley almost into Barberton. Well, there was a tree that was down and it was laying against the sound wall. So you could see it for a long time, probably 2 years it's been there. The story is that a dog person from the area of the cemetery made its way through that part of Copley. Now on that part of Copley, you have a lot of growers. You have a lot of corn, a lot of other vegetables. Well, Wolf Creek flows right through it. And we think what happened was one of these things climbed up the tree that was leaning against the sound walls. And supposedly, and I have no proof of this, supposedly one climbed up and a tree branch broke, dropping it to the ground. It moved, it ran towards the highway, and it got hit by a truck, a semi. And the person that I know claimed that they were called out in an unmarked ambulance, and he and his partner had to pick this thing up from the road. Plenty of ODRNR trucks were there, Rangers, Highway Patrol, Akron Police, and other entities came and watched them do this. And supposedly they were told to load it up, and they were escorted to an ODNR facility somewhere in Northeast Ohio, and that's all I know. I don't know of any facilities up that way, but it could be somewhere near the Cuyahoga Valley National Park. So what he told us was it was the most heinous, scariest thing he's ever seen. He said, I'm telling you, it looked like a werewolf. It didn't look like a person. There was no person hit by that truck. It didn't look like a dog. There was no dog. There was not a bear. He said this thing had hair, it had hands, it had a face like a werewolf mask. He said this was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. And he says, I'm so glad it was dead because we got to pick it up and move it. So that's what I know about that. Again, there's no proof, so don't quote me. It could all be a fabrication, but I kind of doubt it because this supposedly happened not long after the incident at the cemetery and some of the other places.